This video features 25 classic automobiles built between 1865 and 1903, revealing some of the auto industry's progress during these early years. Most images were captured at the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation in Dearborn, Michigan, and the Crawford Aviation Museum in Cleveland, Ohio. This is the first entry in a series, so if you want to see more, please subscribe and click the like button. Enjoy the video. This 1865 Roper steam carriage is the oldest surviving American automobile. A small steam carriage running under its own power, without horses, was so startling that people paid to see it driven around a track. It was a curiosity, not transportation. Carl Benz presented this velocipede to the public at the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, Illinois. Benz went on to produce more than 1,200 units of this car between 1894 and 1902. Historians consider the velocipede to be the world's first production car. The 1896 Duryea runabout had a user-friendly control system that allowed drivers to steer, shift gears, and accelerate using one lever. The Duryea Motor Wagon Company made only 13 cars in 1896 and was out of business by 1898. This is the only known survivor of the original 13 cars. This 1896 Ford quadricycle runabout was Henry Ford's first car and is one of only a few surviving experimental vehicles. He could have used steam or electricity to power this car, but instead chose a gasoline-burning internal combustion engine. Several experimental cars and two failed companies later, he finally succeeded in 1903 with the Ford Motor Company. Auto pioneer A.L. Riker built this electric tricycle in Brooklyn, New York in 1896. Its tubular steel frame, wire wheels, and pneumatic tires are adapted from bicycle practice. Lead-acid batteries are under the seat, and a 40-volt, 1-horsepower electric motor powered the rear wheel. This 1897 Panhard Levister is believed to be the oldest enclosed automobile in the world and is preserved in its original unrestored condition. It was intended to be an owner-driven vehicle, but has a fold-down seat in the rear for a footman, a male servant. The 1899 Duryea Trap is one of the most graceful early autos, being inspired by the more graceful curves of a Victoria carriage. The automobile may have looked good, but passengers sat back to back, making conversation difficult. The 1899 Locomobile Runabout combined railroad and bicycle technology. It's powered by a compact version of a steam locomotive engine, and the steel tube frame, wire wheels, pneumatic tires, and chain drive come from bicycles. Alexander Winton drove this 1899 Winton Phaeton to New York City from Cleveland, taking along a Cleveland Plain Dealer reporter. News coverage of the trip proved automobiles were viable for long-distance travel, and Winton sales rose from 22 autos in 1898 to 100 in 1899. The Duck model was introduced in 1898 when Carl Benz was commissioned to design an automobile for King Leopold II of Belgium. This 1900 Duck vis-a-vis Victoria used an unusual form of rack and pinion steering. In 1900, American Didion was formed to manufacture French Didion Bouton cars domestically under license. The American company's New York Motorette featured a one-cylinder gasoline engine and face-to-face seating. Unsatisfied with the American version's build quality, French Didion canceled the license in 1902. This 1900 Winton is a classic touring car, an open car without a fixed roof that seated 4 or more people and had direct access to the rear passenger area. The 1901 Columbia Victoria looked like a carriage, and its owners used it the same way, riding while the chauffeur drove. But its 19th century appearance disguised its 20th century technology, batteries. Electrics were favored by city dwellers who took short trips and weren't bothered by the 20 to 30-mile range between charges. The 1901 Oldsmobile Model R Runabout was an instant hit because it was simple to operate, ran well, and was relatively cheap. Production rose from 425 in 1901 to 6,500 in 1905. In 1901, James and William Packard's Ohio Automobile Company introduced the Model C Runabout, one of the first cars in the United States to have a steering wheel. This model's use of a steering wheel helped to push the automobile industry away from tillers towards the safer method of steering. The American Gas Company's Model A Runabout was an assembled vehicle, one that used components made by other manufacturers, but the company apparently did its own coach work. Unfortunately, suppliers did not fill the company's orders on schedule, and the price of the vehicle was too high to be competitive. This Pierce Motorette Knockabout was the 13th unit built during the original Pierce 1901 run of 25 automobiles. 2 motorettes like this one competed in the New York to Buffalo reliability run of 1901, which was terminated prematurely when President McKinley was assassinated. This 1902 Model B Stanhope is one of White Sewing Machine Company's earliest production automobiles, built in its second production year. The steamer looks more like a carriage than an automobile, clearly showing why these vehicles were known as horseless carriages. The Autocar Type 8 rear entrance tonneau was a popular model in 1902 and 1903 when about 1,300 were produced. Since the gear shift, steering handle, and clutch were all situated together on the steering column, this automobile was nearly impossible to drive with only 2 hands. Carl Benz Parseval signaled a transition from the concept of a motorized carriage to a modern automobile. Unlike a motorized carriage, Benz positioned the engine in the front of the vehicle as opposed to under the seat. This allowed the car to be built closer to the ground, which provided better handling for the driver and easier accessibility. In January 1903, the Cadillac was introduced to the public at the New York Auto Show, where the brand was an instant success. 2 reasons for Cadillac's success were the quality of the engineering and its finish. In an era when many automobiles looked handsome, the 1903 Cadillac looked refined, especially for its price. The new Ford Company's first product, the Model A, was conventional by the standards of the day. It featured a 2-cylinder engine mounted under the seat and rear wheels driven by a chain. The 1903 Hoffman General Utility rear entrance tonneau could be used as a runabout, a delivery vehicle, or as a 4-passenger touring vehicle. The Oldsmobile Runabout was the best-selling car in America from 1902 to 1905. In 1903, 4,000 people bought Oldsmobiles, but more than 900,000 bought buggies and carriages. 2 men urged this Packard Model F Runabout across the continent in 1903, battling mud, ruts, and sand. Packard employed Tom Fetch drove, and the editor of Automobile magazine filed stories. Their epic journey from San Francisco to New York took 61 days. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments.